Well, it's the parenting element that has stumped new mums and dads for generations, and that is sleep. And amidst conflicting advice, differing routines and divisive opinions, families can feel at a loss. And where do we even begin?
Now, sleep consultant and midwife Jazz Kostov has compiled her tips and tricks in a new book set to help parents and their newborns develop habits for a really good night's sleep.
And Jazz Kostov joins us live from Melbourne. Nice to see you, Jazz. When bringing home a newborn for the first time, what are your top tips for parents?
I remember this vividly when my husband and I brought our first baby home. It was sort of like bringing a puppy home for the first time, but just on a whole nother level. My first tip would be understanding your baby's awake windows. So have an idea of roughly how long they could stay awake before they might need another sleep. It's really, really simple, but babies can be a little bit trickier to settle when they are a bit overtired. The second thing would be understanding a bit of an evening routine that you could get in place for your baby. We had really good memories with our little one of just something as simple as when they wake up from their last nap, offering them, a feed and then jumping in the bath or, shower and then having a little cuddle, do a little massage and then maybe a top-up feed, swaddle and then settle them for sleep. These predictable patterns really help babies start to understand the concept of day and night. And then the next thing is, and this was big for me as someone that doesn't like to be trapped at home 24/7, offering your baby a mixture of different sort of nap locations. So definitely doing some in the early days on the couch, with them on your chest, maybe in the bassinet, but then heading out with the pram or the carrier or the car so they get used to sleeping in different locations as well.
Yeah, it's exactly those 3 points my wife uses to get me through the day. There's always debate around that crying out method. What's your take on that one?
Yeah, I think crying is something that evokes a lot of fear for parents, and it's so understandable. No one likes to hear their babies cry. But what's really important to understand is that when we're teaching babies a new skill, crying is just how they communicate. So I think having an understanding of how you're going to support your baby to sleep and having just a really clear plan there for how to get there, how you're going to respond if they are crying, and just know that if you are keen for your baby to self-settle, you don't have to leave them in a room without support or reassurance to be able to learn that skill. I think that's a really common misconception, and it really kind of prevents parents from helping them learn that skill. So yeah, it's very normal to have some crying when your baby is learning to self-settle, or really with learning any skill like riding a bike. But just having a clear plan for how to support them is super important.
Yeah.
Okay, what about co-sleeping? So that's when the baby sleeps in the same bed as you. Is there a certain age that parents should try and transition the kids out of their bed and into their own?
Yeah, I think co-sleeping is something I get a lot of questions about. What's important, again, is some families love co-sleeping, and in some cultures, families co-sleep for years and years, right into kind of primary school years, and that's okay. So have a think about, is co-sleeping something you're doing because you're really enjoying it, or maybe you're doing it because that's the only way you're getting sleep, but it's not what you wanted to do long term. So it's not about so much whether it's right or wrong, it's about is it getting you sleep? Are you feeling happy with that current plan? And then you can kind of go from there. But in terms of transitioning away from co-sleeping, babies are really adaptable, and they can learn to sleep in their own sleep space like their cot or bassinet from really young, from the newborn days and definitely from 4 months onwards.
Okay, would your advice be to start that earlier than later?
Again, I think a lot of people want kind of one pathway to navigate sleep. But for me, personally, I just don't sleep well with babies in my bed. So for me and a lot of my clients, they are keen to support babies, sleeping in their cot early on. And that is so fine. And I think the earlier you can do that, even from the newborn days, popping them down in their bassinet so that it's more familiar really helps.
So being a midwife and consultant to so many parents, what's the biggest myth that you want to debunk?
Oh, it's hard to pick just one.
Yeah, there's lots.
There is. The biggest one, and it's the first chapter of my book, is actually Parents, There's No Bad Habits. And There really isn't. That's something we hear all the time, is parents being made to feel really guilty if they are co-sleeping or rocking their baby to sleep or feeding their baby to sleep. None of it is bad. I really want you to know that. But it's also okay to make a change at any point if that way of settling your baby for sleep isn't working for you anymore.
Okay, this time of morning we know, because we hear it all the time. People stop us and talk to us all the time about this. New mums, lots of new mums watching the show, sitting there in their pyjamas. The cup of tea's gone cold 3 times over this morning.
Yeah,
they're
hello.
exhausted.
Hi,
they're searching.
we see
We
you.
love you. Thank you for watching. What tips can they try today to start building a routine, just get back on track?
And that was 100% me as well. I watched the morning show a lot
Thank you. Thanks for
when
your
my
support.
babies were little. Lots of cold teas. I think, you know, if a routine is something that's important to you, starting just some predictable patterns, as I said, in those early days really helps. Predictable patterns could be something with your newborn like just, you know, a series of events throughout the day, considering awake windows, a predictable bedtime routine in the evening. And then obviously as they get older, particularly if you're more of a routine person, it might be more structured, like having sort of more planned times for meals and milk feeds, when they're going to have their naps, when bedtime is, because we all know how nice it is to spend time with our little ones, but it's also lovely to pop them down and that be kind of your time to relax as well. And then the third thing would be, as I said already, get really clear on your goals. What do you actually want? Are you really quite a routine person and you'd love to get settled on a routine? Do you want your baby to sleep in their cot? Just having a think about this, having a chat with your partner or support person, and once you know what is important to you, can pave the way forward. Because it can be quite overwhelming on social media hearing what everyone else is doing, but it might not necessarily be what you want for your family.
Yeah, it's really good advice. Thank you, Jazz.
What was your favourite bit of the show when you were watching, when you were home?
Oh,
No, that's I'm joking.
so many.
Jazz, you're
I
gonna have
watched
to
many,
answer
many
that.
hours.
It was
I'm just
just
checking.
the company. Was it just the company?
Just checking you weren't going to say David Campbell dancing. I'm just checking that.
well-
Hey, lovely to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Such an important segment for so many people watching today. Thank you. Jazz's book, Let's Sleep, the first year, is available right now.
Looks good. Thanks, Jazz.